We are live. We are live, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Saturday Sit Down. This is a special edition of the Saturday Sit Down. I am one of your co-hosts, T. Harris at When the Needle Drops.
And I'm QG at Nerdy Lil Bubba.
All right, so today's episode, we are going to salute and honor and pay tribute the best we can to the life and legacy of none other than the great musical titan himself, Mr. Quincy Jones. So this show came about, obviously, if you follow music, you know that Mr. Jones passed away early last week at the age of 91. And you talk about a life well lived.
Mm-hmm.
And that morning on the way to work, when I heard the news, man, I immediately texted Q and said, we got to do a show on Quincy. So we're still going to do our normal show next Saturday as we had already planned, but you can't be a so-called music lover or music aficionados, as we like to call ourselves, and not talk about Quincy Jones. So we're going to go ahead and jump in and get started, man. We ain't going to hold y'all long this evening. We're going to try to go an hour, but when we talk to Quincy Jones, there's a chance we may go a little bit longer than that, which I know y'all are totally cool with. All right, so we're going to kick it off, man. First question on the board is, all right, give me a second to pull that up. All right, first question on the board is, Q, when were you first introduced to the music of Quincy Jones?
Ooh-wee. I would say when I first heard, goodness, I want to say it was Michael Jackson's Rock With You.
Okay. So for me, I knew MJ's music, but I didn't necessarily know it was produced by Quincy Jones until probably, I would say I didn't know Michael Jackson and Quincy's connection probably until the Bad album. And Bad dropped when I was 7, on the verge of turning 8. So that's when I first learned about the connection. But my first time realizing and knowing who Quincy Jones was two ways. One, the We Are the World video. Because I remember asking my mom, who is this gentleman conducting this video? I remember her telling me that's Quincy Jones. But also, when I was a kid, man, we were living with my grandparents at the time. And at 11:30 every night, Monday through Thursday, I'd be up with them during the summer, and reruns of Sanford and Son would come on.
Yep.
So in the credits, it would say music by Quincy Jones. So besides Michael Jackson, my introduction to Quincy Jones was the song The Street Beater, which is the theme song to Sanford and Son. That's when I learned who he was. But of course, like many of us, I didn't go down that Quincy Jones rabbit hole probably until I was in my middle school and high school years and learning this guy has had his hands in everything, man.
Yes, he has. Yeah. And like you, that was also, I didn't know that Quincy Jones was the one that composed the theme to Sanford and Son.
Yeah.
But I found out, like you said, you saw the credits, and then like you said, I did the deep dive, but I was much later in life when I did my deep dive on Quincy. So
yeah. So like I said, Quincy Jones music, multi-generational. We're talking about 7.5 decades that he was involved in music in some shape, form, or capacity, or in the entertainment industry, period. And we'll get to that. So next question. All right, I'll give a shout out to Q because he always comes up with these questions. Sometimes they're hard as hell. I ain't gonna even lie. Next question on the docket is, what artist did you not expect to have worked with Quincy? All right, what's your answer on this one, man?
Well, I didn't know that he worked with Aretha, as we're going to discuss later on the show. One artist was Aretha. I never would have guessed. I never would have guessed that he was able to pull together. I never knew that he worked with Frank Sinatra.
Yep.
Found that out later on too. Like you say, he just had his reach was across so many different genres.
Yeah.
But those are the two that stand out in my mind is Aretha and I say Frank Sinatra.
So you're right about Aretha. I didn't know until this week. Our brother Jason, Grooveline Vinyl, that we follow on Instagram, that we're connected with through the Curators crew, he brought up that Aretha album and he talked about how good it was. That's the only time him and Aretha ever worked together. So I had no clue about that connection. I also learned something new this week, man. When he was on, he was the vice president at Mercury Records, and he
Mhm.
produced an album, a gospel album by Little Richard. That
Wow.
one surprised me. I had no clue, man. It came out, it dropped in like 1962. So he did a
Wow.
gospel album with Little Richard, man. I didn't know.
Now, see, I had no idea.
Yeah. So when you just, I mean, if you can name any popular artist, any genre, starting from the 1950s until he finally just kind of stepped away from music in the early 2000s, Quincy's worked with him, man. Yeah.
In some
So
way, shape, or form.
yeah, like even if it was not just necessarily on the music thing, but on the business side of things,
Yeah.
he had his hands in television, magazine publishing. We'll get into all that later, but yeah, he's worked with anybody, and it's sad and unfortunate, man, that the two kings makers in black music, Quincy Jones, we lost this year, and Clarence Avant, we lost around the same time last year, are no longer with us.
Yep. And what folks have to realize is that Quincy was one of the few, if not maybe the only one, to be a black music executive at a major record label during that time. It was almost unheard of.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Next question. Where do you rank Quincy in terms of top tier producers? We're probably gonna spend a while on this one, but that's cool.
In terms of top tier producers, I mean, Quincy is, I would say he's almost number one, because if you look at his discography, look at what he produced, who all he worked with. I mean, the Thriller album by itself. The Thriller album by itself sold over 100 million copies. The joint was on the charts for years.
Yeah.
Like, if you look at Quincy's body of work, if you look at Off the Wall came out in 79. Off the Wall was still hot in 82 when Thriller came out. Thriller came out in 82. It was still hot when the Bad album came out. I don't know if anybody else that could top that.
Exactly. And I'm with you. I'm gonna rank him number one. Why? Because to me, he's the GOAT, because his reach is in all genres: jazz, bebop, blues, hip hop, R&B. I mean,
Gospel,
gospel, funk, soul, movies, TV shows. So yeah, I'm ranking him number one. Plus, if you think of all the super producers that came after him, who do they say was their inspiration 9 times out of 10? Quincy. Yeah. So yeah, Quincy Jones, in my opinion, is the GOAT when it comes to music production, hands down. And I don't see very many people who would dispute that claim. All right. So next question you had: Quincy the artist or Quincy the producer?
I gotta stop.
Who came up with these? Y'all, for those of you who are watching, Q comes up with these questions. When we put our show format together, these are his questions, and now he be struggling to come up with an answer.
I'll be struggling to come up answer my own questions because it's hard. But I'm gonna go with Quincy the producer. I'm gonna go with Quincy the producer, and that's not to say that he wasn't solid as an artist, because he was. But Quincy the producer, I think, was a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, I didn't realize, again, like, since Quincy passed away, I went down this Quincy Jones rabbit hole, man. I've been listening to all his albums that he put out as an artist / producer, as well as the albums that he served as an executive producer and composed. But yeah, producer by far. But I didn't realize until this week that on the You Got It Bad Girl album, he did almost all the vocals exclusively. Yeah. So, I mean, we know him as the trumpeter and the orchestrator and the conductor, but you know, he wasn't a bad singer. I mean, he could carry a tune.
He could.
Yeah.
One of the songs I'm going to mention later, I was surprised that he actually was one of the leads on it. So
yeah. So yeah, that's pretty cool, man. That's a little known fact that a lot of people don't think about. I mean, we think about Quincy, the jazz musician, but Quincy could sing as well. All right. So now we're going to talk about various parts of Quincy's career. Okay. So we've talked about Quincy, the artist. We talked about Quincy, the producer. And let's talk about Quincy, the executive. And I'm going to let you go ahead and kick this one off, Q.
I mean, the man was just he was just a musical genius across all the different genres. Like, for example, I have here this album right here, Quincy Jones, the dude, and this joint dropped, 1981.
Yeah.
This album is what sparked Quincy into the next, in the 80s decade.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it has classic cuts.
Yeah.
Quincy produced this album himself, but he also introduced the world to other artists, like James Ingram, like Patty Austin. That was his introduction. I have another album that, in the 70s, he gave us the Brothers Johnson.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He introduced the world to the Brothers Johnson on his solo album. I feel like that album came out in 1970. That one.
Mellow Madness.
And that's the one I have in my basement, and I cannot find it.
Yeah.
But it's down there.
Yeah.
That album right there is what introduced the world to the Brothers Johnson.
Yep.
And I want to say this, I don't know if it was this album. It might have been their next solo album, went platinum.
Mm-hmm.
So Quincy, the producer, Quincy always had love for music.
Yep.
What a lot of people don't know is the reason why he started becoming more of an executive versus actually playing music is because in the early 70s, I think it was the early 70s, he had an aneurysm.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of the aneurysm, he was told he could no longer play the trumpet.
Mm-hmm.
And so that forced him to become more of the producer on the producer side, because the music never left. He just had to find a different outlet to express it.
That is absolutely correct. You say that because the Mellow Madness album was the first album that dropped after his aneurysm.
Yep.
And that's also, if I'm looking at the vocals on here, Leon Ware, Paulette McWilliams, like you said, the Brothers Johnson are on here. Minnie Riperton sung on this album. So it's one of the first albums that he put out at where he didn't provide the vocals or any of the musical arrangements, but he always had that. I'll say we'll get to this, but his studio band, even then up through the Michael Jackson era and through the 80s, was always consistent. We'll talk more about that. But as far as like executive concern, you brought this point up. He was the first Black exec at a major record label in the history of the United States. And that was at Mercury Records in the 1950s. That was unheard of back then.
Yes, very unheard of, because if you think about it, outside of him, you had Motown because of Berry Gordy, but for a label like Mercury, which was already pretty much worldwide at that point, that was huge.
It's huge
because there was no other Black executives, definitely in the 50s. 60s, you started having a couple more. And then by the 70s, it exploded. The only other label I think that might have had a Black record producer in the late 60s was, ironically, A&M Records.
Yep. A&M, which, speaking about A&M, Quincy had a long, fruitful relationship with A&M Records. And many of the artists that he worked with at that time, himself included, were all a part of A&M Records.
Yep, sure were.
Yep. So I wrote down a couple things, but we talked about Mercury. We talked about his relationship with A&M. Let's don't forget about his own label imprint, Quest Records.
Yep.
Quest Records and TV and film production, which gave us the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Sure did.
Gave us the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and also, which was Black people's Rolling Stone in the 90s.
Vibe magazine.
Yep. So Quincy Jones is one of the founders of Vibe magazine, which focused primarily on Black music and Black culture. So the latest albums, the covers were always fire because they featured the top artists of the day. The articles were dope. The latest fashion.
I was just about to say,
yeah. The latest fashion, album reviews. Vibe magazine was it, man. I'm telling you.
Vibe magazine was it. I remember I had subscription after subscription. I read Vibe religiously.
Yes. Yeah. And what made Vibe different than its competitors, The Source and Double XL, and some of those other magazines, was it focused not just on hip hop, but it focused on just Black music, period, regardless of genre.
And not only that, but the articles were better written, and because I remember reading, Black Beat and Right On, and Word Up.
Yeah.
But it's like those magazines, in my opinion, played it safe, especially Right On and Black Beat. Word Up kind of, would kind of dig into the story more, but Vibe just gave it to you raw.
They did.
Because what a lot of people may not realize is that Vibe magazine was the one that told everybody in the 90s about a certain artist marrying another certain artist when that artist is 15 years old.
Yeah,
It wasn't a lengthy story, but they were the ones that brought it out early.
Exactly.
And then everybody just kind of forgot.
Yep, they did. Yep, you are absolutely right on that, man. So yeah, Quincy's impact as an executive is, like you said, it's again decades, man. Next,
and he also, you know what, I'm thinking about it now, and I feel like he also produced a talk show.
it was the Jenny Jones show.
Quincy Jones show, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's a nice little nugget right there for the folks that are watching. Quincy Jones also had his hand in the daytime talk show game with the Jenny Jones show. And if I remember correctly, Jenny Jones, despite being a white female talk show host, she broke some black artists on her show. Like she would have black artists perform on there a lot.
Yeah. She did. I remember it. Yeah, she did.
Yep. So next we're gonna talk about Quincy the Jazz Man. I'll start with this one. We all know when Quincy was in Seattle, that's where he met a young Ray Charles. Him and Ray Charles forged a lifelong friendship from their mid-teens till the time of Ray Charles passing. Quincy began in Lionel Hampton's band as a trumpeter and ended up traveling the world, traveling to Europe, which sort of opened his eyes to open his eyes culturally. As well as kind of expanded his horizons when it came to music. So he left Lionel Hampton's band, and from that point on, he wanted to kind of write and compose his own stuff. Little known fact about Quincy, he was a part of the studio band on one of the CBS shows, and that was he was actually a trumpeter on one of the first live performances of Elvis Presley on TV, national TV. Yeah. So, and like you said, man, he has worked with a who's who when it comes to jazz. Dizzy Gillespie, Donna Washington, Herbie Hancock. You mentioned Count Basie, Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra. Frank, when he worked with Frank, that's what really blew him up.
Yes. Yeah. And I remember I just read a story where they said, what was it, in the 60s, Las Vegas had segregationist policies. And so I think Frank was going to perform at a particular restaurant, and they wouldn't let Quincy, they wouldn't let Quincy eat in the main ballroom. And so Frank Sinatra basically said, look, either you let Quincy eat with us or I'm canceling everything. And that broke the segregation barrier in Las Vegas.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
That's because Frank Sinatra, pulled black artists along like that. He wasn't one that would hold them back. He pulled them, like if he liked you, he embraced you, just like he did with Sammy Davis Jr.
Yep. Yeah, and I think I remember seeing that in the Quincy Jones documentary on Netflix, which is excellent, by the way. And they're playing. You got to watch it if you want to learn more about Quincy or you don't know much about Quincy Jones. You need to watch that documentary on Netflix.
Yeah.
So, and actually, before Frank Sinatra passed away, he gave Quincy Jones his pinky ring, and he still wore it. I think he probably gonna have it on in his casket when they have his services.
Wow.
Yeah. He still wore it he still was wearing it to this day. Yeah. So next discussion topic, we're gonna talk about Quincy and Michael. That's what a lot of people, our generation, learned about Quincy Jones. So Q, I'm gonna kind of let you start talking about that.
I mean, it was a beautiful relationship on both sides. I think Quincy found kind of a kinship with Michael because I think Quincy's originally from Illinois, and Michael being from Gary, Indiana, they found that Midwest type kinship. Now, I'm not exactly clear as to how they initially hooked up, so to speak.
So they met on the set of The Wiz.
Okay.
Yeah, they met on the set of The Wiz because Quincy was in the movie, but he also produced the soundtrack to the movie The Wiz as well.
Right. Yep. And then that just sparked a beautiful relationship. Like if you listen to, I think I had it anyway. Off the Wall, they did the outtakes of like the first raw, cut or whatever of the song. Even it needed Quincy's touch. I put it that way.
Yeah.
It needed Quincy's touch. But if you notice, like Quincy kind of took Michael's sound in a higher direction because the Jacksons at that point was putting out disco type song, and he took Michael and he made songs that were good for the discos, but if you listen to it, they were not disco cuts.
No.
Like if you took those songs and you put it in the mid 80s or even the late 80s, you wouldn't know which decade it was actually created in.
Yeah, it was almost like the perfect crossover between that disco and, like you talk about, that boogie phase of black music. Yeah, but I think JR, our brother JR, who's watching, him and Kamani and Chastity did a show about the Off the Wall albums. This is the 45th anniversary, and they talked about Off the Wall just being blackety black. Like it was an unapologetic black soul R&B album.
Right. And if you really want to be real with it, that album, I think, is what helped black music transition from being strictly disco into the new 80s sound. Like it was that bridge.
Yep.
Because if you notice, when they dropped that album, next thing you know, all these other artists started trying to follow that same type formula.
So yeah, you brought up some good points about that, man. Like, thing I learned about their relationship was Michael wanted, after meeting Quincy on the set of The Wiz, he went to him and was like, I want you to produce my solo album. But the folks at Epic CBS was like, no. They didn't want Quincy Jones. They was like, you talking about the jazz composer? No, that ain't happening. They wanted Michael to do an album with Maurice White of Earth, Wind, and Fire. I can't hear it. Man.
I can't hear it either, only because Maurice White's sound and style, I don't think it would have fit Michael as well as Quincy sound did.
Yeah, it would have been, to me, it would have been more the same, because the Destiny album had came out before Off the Wall. It would have sounded just like the Jackson's Destiny album. It just been a continuation of the sound that Michael was already doing.
Right.
Yeah, so of course we know after Off the Wall. So the crazy thing about Off the Wall was people's fatigue with disco. They didn't even win. They didn't even do as well at the Grammys as they would have thought they would have. And that pissed both of them off, Michael in particular. And he set it as a goal to say, you know what? This next album, I'm going to be the world's biggest star. Like you can look it up on the internet. Like he wrote a letter saying, I'm going to be the world's biggest star. This album's going to sell X amount of copies. And boom, Thriller happened. And you could tell it was intentional. It was definitely intentional, like the songs on Thriller and the way the singles were released. It was intentional. The goal of that album was to make Michael Jackson a pop star, not an R&B, not a black star, a pop star.
And I'm glad you said that, because if you listen to Thriller versus Off the Wall, Thriller went knee deep into that pop sound that was popular in the early 80s. Like every single song was not necessarily, it spanned multi-genres. Like it wasn't necessarily an R&B song, it wasn't necessarily a pop song, but it did have that crossover appeal, and it definitely gained that crossover appeal that they were looking for.
It did. Yeah.
A lot of people may not know this, but the song Thriller itself, the video was the first one, full length video, and for the time anyway, and it was produced by John Landis. And I think it cost I think at the time it was like $500,000.
Yeah.
To produce it or something like that. But that kicked down the door for music videos.
Exactly. And shout out to David Bowie, who put MTV on Front Street during an interview and basically asked, like, how come y'all don't show Michael Jackson and Prince on MTV? If this is music television, you should play all music.
And that's the thing. It's like, the Thriller video kicked down the door, but y'all kept saying, no. This is a rock-oriented channel. But when David Bowie called you out, you still wanted to kind of, no, I don't know about this. But then Clarence Avant went to the president of CBS Records and was like, hey, we got a major problem here. And Dick Griffey, to his credit, went to the president of at the time, Warner Communications. Hey, we got a problem here. And those two combined, and it was really, CBS Records that said, look, you play Michael or you ain't playing nothing. And a lot of the heavy metal rock artists were signed to CBS Records.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, boom,
Yep.
Michael and Prince.
Yep.
And other black artists started getting airtime.
Exactly. That's crazy. It took somebody who's not even from the United States, David Bowie, to kind of kick down the doors for Michael Jackson's popularity to sort of go off into the stratosphere, as Neltron said in the comments, because of those videos. And we talked about like the differences between Off the Wall, like sort of being this R&B / disco driven album, to Thriller. Thriller was almost like the sequencing, I'm not going to even say the sequence. I'm going to say the singles, the way the singles were released were intentional. Like if you look at the first single on Thriller, it was "The Girl Is Mine,"
who also had
Paul McCartney on it, who was one of the world's biggest pop stars at the time. It didn't hit that hard. I mean, I get it. But then we got that next one. It was a rap.
It was a rap.
It was a rap after that, and it was hit after hit after hit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So they knew that Quincy knew what he was doing when he was like, okay, so they didn't want to give us our credit due. But, like you said earlier, it was because of when they dropped Off the Wall. Off the Wall came out in August of 1979. Well, that was after, I think it was after Disco Demolition Night, which was the demise of disco, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And every artist that was out at that time were all, especially if you was like a black artist, you were labeled as disco. So now, surprisingly, it didn't catch the backlash that other artists did, and I think it's probably off the strength of Michael's name.
Yeah,
and I mean the music was hitting, but if it wasn't for the fact I think that it had Michael's name on it and Quincy on the boards, it could have easily gotten lost in that disco backlash. But that Thriller album beat him over across the head.
It sure did, man. And like you said, it carried over from 82 to the
until
time
85.
Bad was dropped in, Bad was dropped in 87.
Right. And then here comes Bad.
Yeah, here comes Bad. Folks, people don't talk about Bad. Bad had 5 singles off the album that went number 1.
Yep.
Now, it didn't sell like Thriller did, but Bad wasn't no slouch either.
No.
Yeah.
No, I think a lot of people just wanted to kind of freeze in that Michael Jackson time frame, of the Off the Wall and Thriller. A lot of people held on to those tight.
They did.
So when Michael Jackson came up with Bad, it's not that I don't think people were feeling it, but people were still nostalgic.
They were.
People were still listening to those two albums.
Yeah. Mike and Quincy set the bar so high on Thriller, man, that even though Bad was an excellent album, folks got stuck in that comparison game, man. But the 5 number 1s off an album and 9 singles, that ain't nothing to cough at, man. Like Bad came out in 87. The last single off Bad was Liberian Girl, and that came out in 89.
You see, and again, the Bad album came out in 87. That carried us all the way to at least 89, 90. At least.
And Dangerous dropped in 91.
Yep. And people were listening to Dangerous too. So, I mean, they had a beautiful, at least musically anyway, relationship.
So JR brought up a good point. He said, we talked about the Bad album, y'all, and he said the powers that be wasn't going to let it sell. Look what they did to him at the Grammys that year. Yeah, man, the Grammys, they shut Michael Jackson out at the Grammys that year on purpose. It was almost like it was Michael Jackson fatigue. It was like, let somebody else win it, because they did the same thing to Prince, because Sign of the Times came out that same in 87 too. Yeah, that's a whole nother episode that we can get on about that particular topic in the Grammys. We might do that for next year.
All right. We definitely want to do an episode about the Grammys.
So a lot of people want to know, why did Quincy and Michael stop working together? It was almost a mutual parting of the ways. Like Michael wanted more control and say over his own sound, but he also wanted something newer and fresher. Which is why for the Dangerous album, he chose Teddy Riley to be the producer on that, because New Jack Swing was hitting.
Yeah.
91. So he gave us a New Jack Swing album in 91.
And it worked.
Yeah. It worked. All right. Next topic. Quincy, the TV and movie score. We talked a little bit about this with the Sanford & Son theme song, but golly. I mean, starting in the 60s, you're talking about In the Heat of the Night, The Italian Job, and then The Wiz,
Yep.
Roots, Color
Roots.
Purple,
Yep. Color Purple.
Ironside, of course, the Sanford and Son theme song.
Yep.
I think Mo Millie had brought the fact that he actually produced the theme song to the Oprah Winfrey Show.
Yeah, I saw that earlier. I had no idea.
Me either, man. Me either. And I think he did one of the theme songs to the Cosby Show as well. Him and Bill Cosby had a relationship going back to the 1960s as well.
You know that, and that makes a whole lot of sense, because if you notice, like every year of the Cosby Show, they always had a different sound.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the interesting question is, I wonder which year Quincy produced, because I don't know if it was the very first one, because that sounds more like Herbie Hancock.
Yeah, that's Herbie Hancock, I think.
So Quincy probably did the second year, if I had to guess.
Yeah, let me look it up real quick, man. But yeah, that's a good point.
Well, wait, the second year might have been Tito Puente and them. I can't. It's one of those. It's either the second year or the third year. I feel like Quincy might have produced those, because one of those years was him, and one was when Bill had it produced by Tito Puente.
Yeah. I don't see it. I do know that they did Hickey Burr together on the Smatwater Jack album. Mm-hmm. And then they also, Bill Cosby co-wrote, I think, Chump Change with him on the You Got It Bad album. Yeah. So yeah, Quincy, he had his hands in everything. TV shows, music, movies, magazines.
I'm gonna look up, because there was one particular show that he did the soundtrack for, the TV soundtrack for.
Okay.
And I'm gonna see Quincy Jones 60s TV, because that got his name out there. Well, you're right. It was Ironside.
Ironside, yep. It was a thing.
Yeah, so it was Ironside. Okay.
Yep.
But I don't care what anybody says. The funkiest one has to be Sanford and Son.
By
I mean,
far.
just from the opening, like boom, 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 boom. I mean, you already know, like, as soon as you hear that, you already envision what you could even.
I'm already like, as soon as you start that opening sequence, I'm seeing Lamont. I'm seeing the truck pull up.
Yep.
The house. Yeah.
Yep. And I mean, and for the longest time, I didn't realize that actually was released as a single.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
He released it as a single.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, I mean, that's synonymous with Sanford and Son.
Yeah. Man.
And there was a rap group out of Philly that flipped it into a song too, called "Watch It Sucker."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that.
I found it one day going down the YouTube rabbit hole. I'm gonna see if I can find the name of the group.
So somebody had brought up how many producers sampled Quincy. Like, that's one thing I will say that I admired about Quincy Jones. Like, he wasn't one of those older gentlemen that didn't embrace hip hop. Like, he loved hip hop. He was okay with his music being sampled. We talking about Mobb Deep for Shook Ones. That's a Quincy Jones sample. Jodeci, Get On Up. That's Velas from The Dude. Summer in the City. That's The Far Side.
Yep.
Like, I mean, Human Nature.
Human Nature, yeah.
SWV, the remix. Chris Brown, and then who else did Human Nature? It Ain't Hard to Tell by Nas. So yeah, Quincy embraced hip hop. Like,
yeah, and I think that was a beautiful thing.
Jazz.
That was a beautiful thing that he embraced hip hop, because, like you said, a lot of older artists and producers, they weren't feeling it.
They wasn't feeling it.
They weren't feeling it at all. They didn't understand it. They didn't want to understand it, and a lot of them didn't even try to understand it. But Quincy was one of the ones that was like, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna embrace it. I'm gonna rock with it." And everybody in the community, as far as hip hop's concerned, embraced him. So.
I mean, there's interviews. I mean, even in the Quincy documentary, it starts off with Dr. Dre talking to him on his Pharmacy podcast. He sat down and done interviews with Kendrick Lamar as of 4 or 5 years ago. Like Quincy loved hip hop music. Like I said, it reminded him of the jazz and bebop of his youth.
Yep. Yeah. And let's be real, the jazz and bebop of his youth was misunderstood. And in a lot of cases, it was mislabeled for, dare I say, race-related reasons. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely right. Oh, and speaking of Quincy and hip hop, on his Back on the Block album, he
Yep.
had rappers on that album, man. Big Daddy
I
Kane was on
I
there, Ice T, Melly Mel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, he embraced hip hop to the point he put it on his album.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, look, JR brought up a good point. I didn't know this. He tried to get Run DMC on Bad, but Mike didn't want it.
Wow.
Wow. That would have been fire though.
That would have been fired.
Yeah.
That would have been fired.
Which
So
is ironic because on the next album, on Bad, on Dangerous, Black and White, the first single, he got a rap part on the song. You listen to Quincy 4 years later. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. And then also on that Back on the Block album, we said Quincy was rapping too. He was. He was. Yep. Quincy was flowing on that album.
Because again, I mean, Quincy is the quintessential, or was the quintessential music man. Absolutely. He just liked good music. He liked to work with artists that produced good music. Period. He didn't care about your genre. Nope. You know, he liked good music, and he was cool about it too. Now, one thing that you brought up about the color purple. Now, if you want to talk about a dope movie soundtrack, Quincy put his foot in that soundtrack.
Yeah.
I mean, from start to finish, because the music went along with the scenes.
It did. It did.
You know what I'm saying? It went seamlessly with the scenes. Like, you know, when there was some trouble about the brew, like I remember when Sophia, when
Oprah, she came stomping up the hill.
The music went right along with it. Ding, 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 ding. You know, when there was that horrible juke joint, you know, I mean, that probably was a classic juke joint sound. You know, for that time.
In the church scene when Suge Avery reunites with her father, when they singing "God Got to Tell You Something," that scene still gives me chills to this day, man.
Yeah. And little do people know that song was actually sung by a singer named Tata Davis.
Correct.
So yeah, and you know, but my favorite scene of all was when, or musically, my favorite scene was when Celie was about to shave Mister.
Yeah,
and you know they contrasted that with what was going on in
with
Africa,
the circumcisions in Africa. Yes,
I mean that beat was kind of hot. Like if I was a producer, I'd try to take that beat and flip it somehow.
That beat was kinda hot. It had that tribal sound to it.
Yeah, like I mean, you can flip that easily. I feel like somebody used that beat. I feel like somebody. I don't know if it was Trina or somebody used elements of that beat. I swear I could hear certain parts of it.
Yeah, man. That Color Purple soundtrack was really good. Yeah, if you don't have that in some shape, form, or fashion, whether you download it to your phone on streaming, own the physical copy of the tape, CD, or record, I'd highly recommend you add that to your collection. All right. So now let's get into our music. So we've had some discussions around Quincy Jones in all facets of his career. But now we're going to talk about our favorite songs that were produced and arranged by Quincy Jones. So we're going to do it a little different this time. Typically, we hit y'all with a top 5, top 7, top 10. So when we were putting together the show, I text you Friday morning. And I said, all right, I got my top 5. And he texted me back and said, hold on. 3 of your 5 are also 3 of my 5. So I said, let's pivot then. So I said, instead of doing a top 5, let's talk about the songs that we share in common and then come up with a separate 3 outside of that individually. So that's how we're going to do it today. So we're going to talk about the songs that we share in common, but then we're going to talk about our individual favorite Quincy Jones produced or arranged songs. So the first one is going to be from the 1979 album Off the Wall, which we've talked about already. And that first song is Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. What can we say that hasn't already been said about Don't Stop Till You Get Enough? Q. I mean, talk about it.
That is a dance floor classic. Yeah. I don't care where you are. To this day, you can be out somewhere, and as soon as they drop the beat, people will run to the dance floor and try to do their best Michael Jackson impression.
Yes.
I mean, and it doesn't matter who you are, what you are. You play that song, people are gonna run, and they just automatically get into it. And I like it because it's an upbeat, it's a happy
Yes.
song, happy song. You have to dance hard to it.
Yes. Yes. And I love the intro, like at the beginning where Mike is kind of talking in that slow voice. He's like, sometimes I feel like, the force. And then all of a sudden he lets out that scream and it's on. Now that's the part that gets people on the dance floor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I mean it's a timeless cut. Timeless cut. You can't go wrong. Like some songs don't stand the test of time, but that one will always stand the test of time.
Absolutely.
Like it's gonna be in a time capsule, and somebody gonna dig it up and be like, "What's this?" And then they gonna play it. The aliens might find it. They gonna play it, and they gonna do the little alien dance.
Now, someone in the comments tell me if I'm wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, I'm thinking that this was the first single on Off the Wall, and it was perfect. It's perfect for the times. It was perfect. Yeah. So JB said I wanted to sing that note. Nah, I ain't messing with that. I don't even have that register, man. Yeah, and then Mike showed a different side of his voice, man. He hit that falsetto on this song the whole time.
Yep, he did.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, man, this is one of those songs that I think I saw a thing on Twitter maybe 2 or 3 years ago. They was like, name a song, regardless of genre, that hits 1,000, bats 1,000 at any event, which means it's perfect for any event. And someone listed immediately, don't stop till you get enough.
And they had it correct.
I can't say they wrong, man.
Automatic touchdown.
Yeah, automatic. So just a couple facts about this, man. This song, so this was Michael Jackson's second single to go number one. It was certified 5 times platinum, spent number one for 6 weeks on the Billboard Soul chart, which is now Billboard R&B charts. And it is regarded as one of the greatest and most iconic disco songs of all time. And this song also won Michael Jackson his first Grammy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And according to JR, yes, it was his first single. So he came out the gate.
Yeah.
Hot.
Yeah. I love to hear Quincy Jones' explanation when he said Michael didn't want the orchestra parts in the songs. That he didn't want that. Mike didn't want it. And Quincy was like, no, I got this.
I mean, but the orchestra part set it off. Like the orchestra part of those songs set it off. So, Mike probably would have did if it was left at the mic, he would have cut himself short by taking those parts out.
Exactly. All right. So the next song that we shared in common is from another album from 1979, and this was a song that's by Rufus and Shaka Khan, and that song is called "Do You Love What You Feel" from their 1980 song album Master Jam. Yeah, also produced by Quincy Jones. In fact, he is in the cover. He is inside of the album cover. Yep. So again, I mean, straight up groove right here, man.
And again, that was that that I hate to say weird time period, but it was that time period where disco was basically dying.
Yeah,
and it was like, what's next? So if you listen to that song is another one that made a transition from the disco sound into the new R&B sound, which had not quite been classified yet. I mean, they were still calling it, soul, but it was, it was dance music.
So yeah, thing I learned about this particular record was Shaka had went solo from Rufus. Right. And Rufus had released an album around the same time that Shaka went solo, and it flopped. So they reunited and got with Quincy Jones, and boom, skyrocketed back to the popularity they were used to. Yeah. And this album had some joints on it, man. Any Love, Heaven Bound. I mean, yeah, it has some joints on here. Yeah, shout out to Jones, man. So the next one is, you talked a little bit about these fellas being introduced on the Mellow Madness album, but this right here, this is one of my favorite Quincy Jones produced records, period. Like, I would rank it up there with some of those MJ jams, and that's Stomp by the Brothers Johnson.
That is one of my favorites as well. And as a matter of fact, if you took the Brothers Johnson off and put Michael on that song, it would be flawless.
Yes, absolutely. It would still be a dope record. You are right, man.
Yep. Because it reminds me of the song that Michael did called "Dance with Me." And so, if you took Michael off, and if you took them off, put Michael on, could have easily been a Michael Jackson jam. But this song actually fit the Brothers Johnson. And as a matter of fact, I want to say, was Stomp? Did that album go platinum? That album might have went platinum as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, Stomp. Yeah, and Rod Temperton wrote this song too. Shout out to Rod Temperton, who helped Quincy Jones put out some absolute bangers.
Yes, he did.
Era, man.
Yes, he did. And I remember the video for Stomp. You know, they was in the Benz.
Yeah.
You know, the little drop top joint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Stomp was Stomp. Let's see. I'm just gonna look up some stats on the song real quick. #1 on the dance singles chart, went #1 on the R&B singles chart, and peaked at #7 on the Billboard Hot 100. And the album, I don't see the sales figures on it, but I'm almost certain this album probably went platinum because it's probably one of their more popular albums. But the unfortunate thing about this album was it was the last album that the Brothers Johnson had produced by Quincy Jones because they left A&M Records, and then A&M was like, Quincy can't work with y'all no more. It was on some petty stuff. Yep,
yes,
JR said, yep.
Did go platinum.
Okay. Yeah, JR even said, he confirmed it in the comments for us. Yeah, Light Up the Night did go platinum.
Now, that was kind of dumb. Like, why? Well, let's see. No, their last album on A&M Records was Winners.
But Quincy didn't work with them on that.
But Quincy didn't work with them on Winners. Which is probably why I don't think it sold all that well. Let me see.
Yeah,
and that's why it didn't sell. Like, I mean, it sold less than 500,000 copies. So if they had to let Quincy, work with them on that last album, they would hit platinum pay dirt all over again.
Exactly.
All the albums that Quincy worked on with them all went platinum.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, some people, like you said, some artists and some producers just have that magic together. And the Brothers Johnson and Quincy were that for each other. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Next one is this one of my favorite two-step joints right here, man. George Benson, Give Me the Night. Yeah. Yep.
Yo.
Yeah, and then you got Teddy Austin in the background. Yeah.
I love this song. I mean, I just imagine, being in like some lounge or something, in 1980, I say I'm stepping out the fresh caddy, with the 80s gear on, the same sweater like George Benson. I'm at the bar sipping the 7 and 7
with the chain, with the chain stuck in the chest
and all. You know what I'm saying? I see a young lady. She said she want to dance. Let's go. We on the dance floor. Boom, boom.
Yeah.
And, we're getting our two-step on. That's what I see. When I hear this song. So and Mo Millie said the man was skating and playing the guitar effortlessly.
He was.
I remember that video.
Yes,
I remember that video.
Yeah, it looked like they were on
when roller skating was hot.
Looked like they were on Venice Beach or something. This dude like gliding backwards on the guitar. Smooth as he could be, man.
Nell trying to say members only jacket and Lagerfeld. Hey, I'm saying
I ain't mad at that, but you're right, man. That's a dope record, man.
That is a dope song. I love that song. Yeah. Outside of Breezin' and what's my other favorite one? Breezin' and Turn Your Love Around.
Yeah, Turn Your Love Around.
That's one of my top George Benson joints.
Yeah, I like that. So I like those. I like Moody's Mood too. Moody's Mood is dope. That's on this same album. Give Me the Night. And then there's another joint. I think it's Love Times Love. Love X Love. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's another one cut.
Too. And don't forget Broadway. Broadway is another cut too.
Oh man. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, George Benson, man, so severely to me, not as appreciated as he should be.
Yeah, man, he's underappreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. JR said as soon as they cut the record, they took it to the club and the DJ played it 8 years straight before it was even mixed or mastered. Quincy knew he had a hit. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Undeniable. Little story about this. I think I may have told it on our 80s episode because this is one of the songs I had in my top 5 for the 1980s.
Right.
When my youngest son was an infant, like I would always have music playing in the background, and he would start crying, and I would play "Give Me the Night," and he would that would instantly calm him down.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, yesterday we were riding around, man, and "Give Me the Night" came on, and he started singing along to the chorus of the song. He's 6, y'all. He's 6.
Well, I mean, you're training up a child.
That's right. Yeah. At least one of my 3 will appreciate dad's music. In fact, you can attest to this. At our homecoming tailgate, little man had on his Saturday sit down hat.
He did have on the Saturday sit down hat. He was representing with us, so
and didn't want to take
the little man.
Yeah, he even wears it to school, so that makes me proud right there, man. Wipe a little tear off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, so I wrote this down real quick before we move on to our top 3. So listen to this, man. From 1979 to 1985, listen to all the albums that Quincy Jones either produced and or arranged. This is in order. Off the Wall by Michael Jackson, Master Jam by Rufus and Shaka Khan, Give Me the Night, George Benson, The Brothers Johnson, Light Up the Night, Quincy's The Dude, Patty Austin's Every Home Should Have One, Thriller, It's Your Night by James Ingram, 1985, We Are the World, and then 1987, Bad. That's in a span of 8 years. That's the kind of music that Quincy gave us from the 70s, from 79 to 87.
You know, you said something about We Are the World. Now, as we know, the reason why he came out with We Are the World was to raise money because the children in Ethiopia were starving to death. Yeah. I remember my parents sent money I think they sent it to the Red Cross most likely for the effort, and they bought the single for We Are the World, which I still happened to snag the last time I was home. But it's amazing how Quincy was able to pull together artists, all the top artists of the day, get them all in the studio, and they managed to make a cut. I mean, that was like the original Posse cut. Like,
really
was a thing. That was like one of the originals. There were a few others that came out, before then, but that one was unique in that he was able to pull all these different artists, across all the different genres. I still remember Ray Charles' part, at the end. It was him. I think it was him, Stevie. And Dave Ingram.
It
was all singing. It was
Ray Charles in the video like this.
Yeah, he was rocking side to side. He was like, "We on wow," But it was unfortunately it was a beautiful thing that came out of a tragedy, if that makes sense, and I'm still amazed how he was able to get all those egos. I need to watch I feel like there was a documentary.
It was on Netflix. It came out this year.
Yeah, I need to watch that documentary. Every time I sit down and do it.
Yeah, please give it a watch. It's 2 hours, but it's an entertaining 2 hours. Like, it gives you the background behind the song, like you said, why they did it. Originally, it was supposed to have been Michael, Lionel, and Stevie were supposed to work together and write the song. Stevie never answered the phone call. He showed up after the song was done. They was like, "Well, you can still be on it."
Right.
And then, of course, I'm not gonna ruin it for y'all, but then they happened to pull everybody together from the American Music Awards that night. Yeah. So yeah, you'll have to watch it. I'm not gonna tell anymore.
Yeah, matter of fact, I'm gonna do that tomorrow. I'm gonna unless I decide to go look for another car, I'm gonna do that tomorrow. And since I got the day off. Shout out to the veterans, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, shout out to the veterans who are tuned in. Yeah, it's called the greatest night in pop. Yep. I think it's called.
Yep, that's what it's called. So I'm gonna check it out. But it's just amazing, Now there was a competing song, if you will,
it was
came out after that, and that was with Live Aid.
Yep.
So but they had mostly British based artists except for Jody Watley. I know Jody Watley was on Live Aid. But yeah, it was kind of a competing, but still, what Quincy was able to do with We Are the World is just, mind blowing.
Yeah. I still remember those USA. I remember people wearing those USA for Africa shirts because of the video. Yep. Because of the video. Man, like you're right, man. I'm looking at this album cover. Paul Simon, Lindsey Buckingham, Tina Turner, Michael Jackson, Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen, Diana Ross, Stevie Wonder, Willie Nelson, Kenny Rogers, Al Jarreau, Hall & Oates, Kenny Loggins, Ray Charles, Harry Belafonte.
Yep.
Yeah, Bette Midler, Sheila E., Smokey Robinson, Bob Dylan, the Pointer Sisters. Of course, if Mike in there, you know he had to invite his siblings. So Tito, Randy, Marlon, and Jackie are there. LaToya there. And the funniest one that stands out to me the most is Dan Aykroyd. What the hell did Dan Aykroyd doing there?
Why you there? You don't sing. Why you in there? Why are you there? You're just there.
When I watched the documentary, I was like, man, Dan Aykroyd, I caught he was somebody's ride that night. He was a designated driver, and they was like, well, shit, since you here, you can sing on it too.
Right, but why you there, Dan? You do comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no. I mean, I like Dan Aykroyd. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but why you there?
Yeah, man.
That's like the awkward picture they showed of Michael Jackson, Dan Aykroyd, Magic, and I think it was not sure it was Christy Brinkley.
Yeah.
And it was somebody else. Oh shit. What's that girl's name? Tatum O'Neal.
Yeah.
And they was all hanging out at the Forum Club.
Uh-huh.
So yeah. Now hold on. One thing I need to correct. Neltron, no, I am not a veteran. I do work for DOD, but I'm not a veteran. So nah. But I appreciate the sentiment, but no, I'm not a veteran. But I want to shout out all the veterans I know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So look at JB. This is why Dan Aykroyd was there. He had to spray for the ghost. And JR says Dan Aykroyd was there because he thought it was for the Blues Brothers.
Yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah. So also they wanted Prince to be on it. Y'all have to let you watch the documentary if you can find out why Prince wasn't on it. Because
I'm gonna have to watch it. I'm gonna make sure to do that tomorrow for sure.
He wasn't on it for Prince reasons.
Well.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, those were the four that we had in common. Don't stop till you get enough. Do you love what you feel? Stomp, and then give me the night. So now we're gonna go into our three. Okay. I'll kick it off. So my number one is a song that I feel gives brothers a play-by-play on how to treat your woman. Okay. And the name of that song is 100 Ways, featuring Mr. James Ingram.
Shout out to the late, great James Ingram.
Shout out to the late, great James Ingram. So you talked about it already, but Quincy Jones had a way of breaking new artists. Like you said, he introduced the Brothers Johnsons before they did their album. He also introduced James Ingram on The Dude. He did Patty Austin. Like a lot of times these were session singers or studio singers that he felt like had the talent to go on and do outstanding solo work. But yeah, this one of my favorite songs, period, regardless. I love this song. I mean, he says it compliment what she does, send her roses just because, with violin she loved, let them play.
So fun fact about James Ingram. James Ingram was a studio session artist.
Yes.
For lots of different R&B artists of the day. Well, he played the bass line on Carl Carlton's Bad Mama Jamma.
No way.
Yep, that's fact.
He was a guitarist too.
Yep.
Dope.
Yep, he did.
Yeah, he also did a lot of the background vocals on Michael Jackson's Thriller album too.
Yep, he did.
Yep. You can hear him in PYT and You Want to Be Starting Something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah, actually, yeah, man. So yeah, dedicate a favorite song and hold her closer all night long. Love her today. Find 100 ways. 100 ways. He gives you a playbook all the way. And then my favorite part of the song is when Herbie Hancock and Greg Fillinganes start jamming out on the keyboards. You know that part? It's like boom, 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 boom. Yeah, and then he starts singing again. Yeah, I love that part of the song too.
True.
All right, Q. Tell us, folks, your number one.
My number one is a song that came out on that Quincy album that we discussed earlier from 1975. Song is entitled "Is It Love That We're Missing," featuring George Johnson of the Brothers Johnson. I chose this song because, again, I mean, it was, I guess, Quincy's way of introducing the world to his new sound. But much like James Ingram was giving you a play-by-play, this song is like saying, okay, I envision it to be like you're with somebody, whether you're you're in the courting stage, or whether you're in the honeymoon phase, or you're already deep in the marriage, and things may not be quite right. So you're looking at each other and you're asking, "Is it love that we're missing?"
Yeah.
And you just go into the whole, do you have the strength to carry on?
Yeah.
It's like you're pouring out your heart, saying, "Hey, is it love that we're missing? How can we fix this?"
And if it's one thing that Quincy Jones did, man, that brother could make some funky love songs. Like this ain't like, you wouldn't even think it was a song about love. I mean, obviously with the title, but the instrumental on it is so funky, like you wouldn't know.
I found I can't find it anymore, but there was a video on YouTube where Quincy performed this on Soul Train with the Brothers Johnson, and everybody in the background was dancing to it hard, like it was like an actual danceable song. But I saw it as kind of like a mid-tempo, kind of groove where you just drop the top, or let the roof open, and you just cruising. But they were actually dancing hard to it.
So they performed. I saw that. So they performed "Is It Love That We're Missing." I think they did "Listen What It Is" too, because Quincy was jamming out on the keyboard, and man, Lewis Johnson was killing it on the guitar. Yep. Dope selection there, man. Shout out if y'all don't like if you're more so into the Quincy Jones production arrangement, like the 70s through the 80s, some of the stuff he did with Michael, James Ingram, etc. But I challenge you to go back and listen to some of those albums from the 70s, man. Mellow Madness, You Got It Bad Girl. What's my other one that I think I have it on the wall behind me back there? Body Heat, which I'll get to. That's a perfect segue into my next song. So this song is off the Body Heat album. And on this album, he brought in Mr. Leon Ware to work with him. And if you know black music, you know Leon Ware also co-produced one of the greatest R&B albums of all ever. I was gonna say of all time ever. And that's Marvin Gaye's "I Want You." So Quincy brought him in to work with him on this album, on the Body Heat album. And the name of this song is "If I Ever Lose This Heaven." I love this song, man. So it's featuring Leon Ware on the vocals, and of course Minnie Riperton. Some of you may know this song as a song that was performed by the Average White Band. They actually covered it, and it became a hit record for them. But yeah. So again, this song, like you said, man, the lyrics, like when you're kind, extra kind, and suddenly you'll cross. You're so moody, you get to me. I still can't turn you off. You're fascinating. You're exciting. And then basically, like, they're kind of just going through the roller coaster of what love is. And then he's saying, if I ever lose this heaven, I'll never be the same. Like, we're struggling together, but we can't lose each other.
I honestly, I had not listened to that song, but I'm definitely going to do it now. Because I got the album somewhere downstairs. I just, for whatever reason, I just never listened to it. So I'm going to make sure to do that.
Yeah, and Al Jarreau is on it too. You can hear him scatting in the background and singing background vocals along with Minnie Riperton and Leon Ware, the late great Minnie Riperton, who recently celebrated a heavenly birthday. All right. Number 2, you talked a little bit about this in the intro when we talked about artists that we were surprised that worked with Quincy. So tell the people about your number 2.
So my number 2 is none other than "Angel" by Aretha Franklin, produced by Quincy, and this was from her 1973 album. I don't know the name; I'll have to look it up. But I remember hearing this when I was younger. I might have been in high school because my parents had the Greatest Hits album for Aretha, and I listened to this song, and it's beautiful, but it's also heartbreaking at the same time.
It is.
Because I know that she dedicated it to her sister, and I don't know if her sister passed away after this, before this. I got to go back and look at the whole story. But the introduction is "Gotta Find Me an Angel."
Yep.
And I've had times in life where I ask myself, I got to find an angel. And so it's just a beautiful song. It's just Beautiful from start to finish. Don't listen to it if you're emotional, because if you do,
Nah.
you won't cry.
Yeah, it's gonna take you there.
It's gonna take you there.
Yeah. This song was a hit for Aretha. It actually topped the US R&B singles charts for 2 weeks and sold almost 1 million copies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this was the first album that Aretha did while she was with Atlantic Records that she didn't work with Jerry Wexler. And I didn't find out about this album until Jason brought it up this week, man. And I'd be honest, I had never ever heard this song before until I saw it on your list and I listened to it. I was like, this song is like, it's beautiful, but like you said, it's sad at the same time.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But I mean, like I said, like it's like the title, Angel, you sometimes you just cry out, gotta find me an angel.
Yep. So here we go. Here's the name of the album. It's called Hey Now Hey, The Other Side of the Sky.
Yeah.
And Quincy produced this along with Aretha Franklin.
And yeah, her sister Carolyn did write it. JR, I did forget about that, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So my next song, my number three and final song is, well, we're gonna do one other one after this. Is a song that don't have words. It's just sounds. It's emotions. And this is from the 1989 award-winning album Back on the Block. And the first time I heard this song was in the love scene in Boys in the Hood, between Nia Long and Cuba Gooding Jr. But the name of this song is Setembro. It's the Brazilian wedding song, with lyrics and sounds by Sarah Vaughan. Take 6. You got Gerald Albright on the saxophone, George Benson on the guitar, George Duke and Herbie Hancock on the keys.
Woo!
Yeah. Woo! If you are of a certain age, this song right here, like as JR says, or as more famously Tommy said from Martin, this better be on your GTD soundtrack. And if you don't know what GTD means, I challenge you to watch.
I should have had that on mine back in the day, I guess. But oh
well. Yeah, Tommy would say, "Get them draws, dog." Yes, that is this on your GTD soundtrack. This song is beautiful, man.
Yo, he got some heavy hitters on that track. Again, it speaks to Quincy's musical genius.
Listen,
because only Quincy is able to pull somebody in like Sarah Vaughan. Then he brings in Take 6. Then he brings in Gerald Albright, one of the, he's on the mountain, a smooth jazz.
Yeah.
George Benson, the Massa, George Duke.
Yeah.
And then he's gonna bring in Herbie Hancock.
Yeah.
Another person that's on the pantheon of that of modern jazz.
Yes.
Come on, man. Nobody else is able to do this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And the song come out the gate swinging too. Do 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 ooh. And this, back in the day, this was on the Quiet Storm every single night.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, it was on the Quiet Storm every night. And if they wasn't playing it on the Quiet Storm, when it was going off the air and the DJ was saying, "Hey, this is I wish you a good night," blah, blah, blah. This song was playing in the background of the Quiet Storm. But yeah, this song don't even have words. It's just melodies. Like people, they're using their voices as instruments. And then it has, like you said, it has the part where they're playing the sax, and then you hear George on the guitar. Man, that song is beautiful, man.
Okay. I'm gonna have to look into that one because, like I said, I probably heard it and just didn't realize. Well, I mean, I saw Boys in the Hood, so you know.
Yeah, it's also on the Boys in the Hood soundtrack too.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my number 3.
All right.
Here's your last one. What you got, man?
So we have talked about this particular album incessantly because, again, this was Quincy's, post disco to soul R&B, whatever they wanted to categorize our music as, at that time. So off the wall album, my favorite track is "Working Day and Night" by the late great Mr. Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Another one where you put this song on, everybody's gonna run to the dance floor.
Yep.
It's like you hit them, what I'm saying, with what did we talk about before?
Don't stop till you get enough.
Don't stop till you get enough. You hit them with that, and then you hit them with this. Yeah, they're just gonna stay in place. that heart rate gonna stay up. You know, I mean, the minute the beat, I was like, dun, 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 dun.
Yep.
And I mean, he said, "You got me working.
Yeah.
You got me working. You know, working day and night."
Yeah. There's a video on I think Rick Ross and DJ Khaled were dancing to this, and they were getting it in, man. Like, people love this song. This is another one of those songs that's transcended generations and eras, man. Beautiful song, man. I said beautiful. I love that word, by the way. Beautiful, perfect. I say it a lot when it comes to certain music. But yeah, this song's dope, man.
It's really dope. And it, again, I wish I could find. I think it's on the History CD, where his greatest hits CD that came out in the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
They did the studio outtake where they were making the original demo tape.
That's on the 25th anniversary CD for Off the Wall.
Right. Okay. I knew I think
it's a second disc that comes that has like the studio version of it.
Yep. Yeah, and they were doing the demo for it, and I think Janet was playing on the demo. Was on there. Like, he had all his singles just about playing on the demo tape, making this song. Because like the beat for I think they originally started the beat using an old Coke bottle.
Yeah.
So Quincy, once he put his touch on it, I mean, it took off. But that's one of my favorites. Like, that is definitely a barn dance floor burner.
Yeah. You know what I love about this song? You can hear Thunder Thumbs, that's what they call him, Johnson, on that guitar. They got the horns. Man, golly, man. You gonna have me spend this tonight before I go to bed, man. But yeah, man, you speaking of Off the Wall, listen to this. I'm looking at that record now. This is side 1, okay? Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, Rock With You, Working Day and Night, and Get on the Floor. Back to back to back to back to back. Hits. Nothing but hits.
Nothing but hits.
Yeah, and songs that keep you on the dance floor.
Yep.
Yeah. Off the Wall was the perfect title because that's exactly what this album did. It kept you off the wall. You're going to go out there and dance.
You're going to dance. Yeah. You are going to dance.
Yeah. All right. So we've already reviewed our 3, man. So I'm going to go back and before I get into our bonus songs, we chose some bonus songs. There was a song I left off. And y'all please forgive me because I shouldn't have left it off. Okay. All right. And I'm going to set it up, man. Okay. Imagine. It's 1990. Okay.
I was about to say, we're going to have to talk about this one.
1990. This song included some heavy hitters. Young gentleman by the name of Al B. Sure, who was discovered by Quincy Jones. Also, a gentleman by the name of Mr. James Ingram, who we've talked about. Another gentleman who helped us light-skinned brothers tremendously in the 80s, named by who went by the name of El DeBarge, and then the maestro himself, Mr. Barry White. And the name of that song is none other than The Secret Garden.
In the garden. Look, man.
Listen.
I remember when the song came out, they performed on Showtime at the Apollo.
Man.
And they tore the house down.
Yeah.
With that song. All of them.
Yeah.
I mean, Barry was up there and he had the slick back Jerry curl in the purple suit. I mean, they were all wearing suits or tuxedos or whatever.
Yeah.
And El DeBarge is up there. He had his joint slicked back. James Ingram had the box. Al B. Shore had the S curl box. And they tore the house down with this eyebrows.
Yeah, man.
I mean, we would be on the bus. We would be on the bus going home singing Secret Garden. The song is a certified classic. But I saw a debate. I saw a debate online, and I can't remember who started this debate. That was you that started that?
That was me that started the debate this week.
I can remember it was you or your LB Cattenhead that started the debate.
That was me.
But yeah, you started that debate as to who had the best verse. The best verse on the song. It was a lot of back and forth. Some people were saying Barry, Some people said L. Some people said James DeBarge. Not too many people name not James DeBarge. That's James Ingram. Not too many people say I'll be sure.
No.
So I was like,
so before you keep going, you got to answer that same question. Who had the best verse on Secret Garden, Q?
I said Barry. I think I initially said Barry, but then I was like, James Ingram is like a 1A.
Yeah.
You know,
okay.
But yeah, between those two, they carried it because in my mind, you know, they started off with I think they started off with L.
Al B started it off.
Al B started off. Okay.
Yeah.
So his verse wasn't as strong. It's like they built up to it.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I chose Barry.
But if you think about it, the name of the song says Secret Garden. We exploring secret gardens.
Right.
Innuendos. We got to build up.
True.
And I'm not going, it's a kid-friendly show. But you get what I'm saying.
I mean, yeah, because I get it. I get it, but I mean, because Barry was the original, I mean, yeah. he could hang him right off of him. So
I'm gonna put it like this. I'm going James. Let's rank them. I'm gonna rank them. All right. To me, James had the best verse. Mm-hmm. This brother said, "Let's make music harmonizing ecstasy."
Mm-hmm.
And then he took it in, man. Here in the garden, we can make it come to life every night.
Yo, I mean, come on now. That song was dope, start to finish. Like I said, it is a classic. Again, a timeless classic.
Timeless. So then,
in 2024, you can play this song and everybody knows the lyrics. Everybody will start singing. Especially towards the end where they say, "If you think that I'm gonna take care of you,
if you think I
show you right."
Show you right, and then it's show you right, baby.
Yeah, but so if your ranking is James is number one.
All right, I'm going James number one.
Okay.
All right. Al B set it off nice.
Mm-hmm.
2, Barry 3, and then L 4.
I'm going with Barry, James, Al B, and L DeBarge.
Okay. So we both had L DeBarge 4. But listen, Barry even started the song off like
he did
with the opening intro. My man say, "Tell me a secret. I don't want to just know any secret. I want to know about your one special secret.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight, I want to learn all about the secrets in your garden." Come on, man.
That's why I picked Barry as being number one, because Barry had songs before that where he let you know that I'm about to get to it, but before I get to it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Barry said, "I'll take good care of you."
Mm-hmm.
That's what a man is supposed to do.
Oh, yeah. Come on now.
Come on, man. Let your hair down.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That brother was singing, wasn't he? And he hit that upper registers of that bass voice, man.
He did.
Yeah. So the brothers from in this corner said, "Yeah, Barry with I'll take good care of you. That's what a man's supposed to do." Yeah, he hit that thing, man.
Like I said, Barry's the original. Look, we gonna get to it, but so I think James all this stuff to build up to it.
Exactly. I think James had the strongest verse, and Barry had the best verse. I can respect that take. I can respect that. Yeah, man. Secret Garden is, again, this is one of them other songs that has to go on your GTD playlist. Okay.
Oh, no doubt.
I don't respect your playlist if you don't have this on there, man, or mix CDs as we used to make, or mixtapes which preceded those.
Yes,
yeah, man. Yes.
That was the prom night mix. that was on the prom night mix.
All right, we're gonna take a commercial break. We'll be right back after these messages. Oh man, yeah, man. You fool for that one. You a fool for that one. Yeah, we can spend a whole show just talking about Secret Garden. But you're right, man. Like, the thing about this song, you had the old school with
Barry. Yep.
You had the new star with Al B. Sure.
Yep.
You had the established stars with El DeBarge and James Ingram. Man, it was just the perfect like match of voices. I was watching a video of that Showtime at the Apollo performance, and I just got in the comments, started reading the comments. A guy in the comments said that the performance that we see now, that was their third take. Because Barry kept missing the part where he was supposed to start singing. But they said every time they came out, they killed it. And the crowd loved every single take. So the one that you see on YouTube or that you see on social media, that's the third take.
Wow. I never would have guessed.
Yeah.
I never, ever would have guessed. But again, it speaks to Quincy's genius because think about it. Look at what he did. Look at what Albie, was the New Jack Swing, one of the New Jack Swing stars. You know what I'm saying? L was a part of that, Jerry Curl soul movement of the early 80s. You know what I'm saying? Along with James Ingram. And Barry was the maestro.
The maestro of love, baby.
You know what I'm saying? He was the maestro. You know what I'm saying? He Love Unlimited. So Quincy's genius, put all them together on the same cut. And it flowed flawlessly.
Like I said, man, that's this got to be this has to be on your playlist, man. Like I said, we can go on about Secret Garden, but we're gonna move on. Tune in Saturday Sit Down 2025, 1 hour long episode about the Secret Garden. All right, man, let's talk about your bonus tracks that you shared that we came up with, man.
Hold on, I gotta go back and I gotta find my bonus track because I don't even remember what I wrote. I think I put. Okay. So my bonus track was "I'll Be Good to You," which originally was done by the Brothers Johnson.
Yeah.
And then off a Q's Juke Joint album, Ray Charles and Shaka Khan did it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think both versions are hot.
I do too.
The Brothers Johnson basically was just. It was like they were singing the 1-2 people, but then when you put Ray and Shaka Khan together, it was great, but it was also comical.
It was, man. That video, Ray Charles, man.
Yeah.
Rocking back and forth on the bench, had the slacks pulled up to his knees.
It was comical because
he was having a good time.
Yeah, like Shaka Khan was like, I'm gonna do all this, and then Ray was like, yeah, I'm gonna do all that too. And he was like, I'll take a shower with your girl, and all. Ray was just going wild, like, but that's just Quincy's genius.
Yeah.
So I like both versions of I'll Be Good to You. Like the original version with the Brothers Johnson was more of a mid-tempo type jam, just kind of easy listening. Whereas the Ray and Shaka version had the 90s,
had that kind of New Jack swing,
the New Jack swing to it.
Yeah. And that's one thing Quincy did that. He did that a lot, man. Like especially those later albums that he came out with, Back on the Block. And Q's Juke Joint that came out in the mid 90s. Like he took some of the songs that he'd done with earlier artists, and put a new school spin to it. That's just how he did it. He did the same thing with Moody's Mood for Love.
Yep.
All right. So my bonus track, I went back and forth on this. I probably text you 10 times like, oh, I'm gonna go with this one. No, I'm gonna go with this one. So today I decided I'm gonna go with a song from the Thriller album. And I'll talk about before I get to it, man. One thing about Quincy Jones, we talked a little bit about this, was he kept the same core group of studio session instrumentalists and vocalists across the board, man. Like I said, Rod Temperton, songwriting, the Brothers Johnson, Larry Williams, Greg Fillinganes, Herbie Hancock, Wawa Watson, Paulino DeCasto. Like these are some of the people whose names you see a lot in the credits of his album, starting from the 70s through the 80s, and even on some of the stuff that he did in the 90s. But there's four gentlemen in particular he worked with that also were a part of my favorite yacht rock band, Toto. And they were session artists with Quincy as well. And this particular song right here was written by one of the members of Toto.
Oh,
okay. And it ended up being included on Thriller. And the name of that song is Human Nature by Michael Jackson, which was released in 1983. Love the song, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
now.
yeah, I love the song, man. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Mike did his thing on it, man. It's one of those songs
Yeah.
that it's just well made, beautifully composed. And like I said, I think it was David Peisch, who is a part of Toto, was one
Mm-hmm.
of the studio session instrumentalists on Thriller.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were still putting the album together. Toto had actually recorded it, and he took the demo tape to Quincy and gave him hey, here's some songs I want you to listen to that you may want to include on Thriller.
Okay.
So Human Nature was actually on side B, but Quincy having money, he had a tape deck that had auto reverse on it. So they listened to all of side A, and when it got to side B, all he heard was why, da, 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 da. And he was like, "What's this?"
Mm-hmm.
So Quincy was like, he asked permission, "Hey, can I use this?" And then he brought in another songwriter to add the words to the song. With the chorus was already in, the instrumental stayed the same, but it was a Toto song. Then ended up becoming a Michael Jackson song.
And now that makes perfect sense why it could be included on the Yacht Rock soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's easy.
It's easy. Yep.
It's easy. You know what I'm saying? Wow, that's okay. But if you notice about that Thriller album, look at when they put where they put Human Nature.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because after you done got hyped up, that was one of the ones that they kind of brought you down with.
Yeah. Oh man, you're right. So in order, okay. Thriller album. Want to be starting something. Baby Be Mine. The Girl Is Mine. Thriller. Beat It. Billie Jean. Human Nature.
See? So again, they ramped you up. Then they kind of gave you that plateau.
Yep.
Then they hyped you up again.
Yep,
and you couldn't come back all the way down until
PYT. And then you finish it off with Lady in My Life.
Right.
Yeah. JR calls he don't call the Thriller album, he called it the Thriller EP because it was intentional. Like these are basically every single song on here was a single.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Now in my mind, I was thinking you was gonna say the other alternative track that you was thinking about.
So initially, I'll tell the people, I was gonna say Beat It. And the only reason I was gonna say Beat It because it was a game changer, it's like a black rock song. But then I thought about it. I said, I'll be honest with you. I ain't the biggest fan of Beat It. I'm not.
Really?
I mean, yeah, the video's classic. The guitar solo by what's my man name? Eddie Van Halen was dope. But yeah, Human Nature was my choice. Like you said, it's a beautiful song. It really is.
Mm-hmm. But I like Beat It only because it was in some ways it was groundbreaking. Because think about it. When you initially hear it, it's doom, 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 doom. And then you hear the beat.
Yep. Then the guitar comes in.
So you don't know what, if you didn't already hear it, you don't know what to expect. But then when you hear that guitar riff come in, and it's the rock sound, again, Quincy's genius. It flowed together. And that video introduced us to who? A young Wesley Snipes.
That was bad.
Oh, that was bad?
Bad was Wesley Snipes. Well, okay. Now my man from I'll tell you who was in the Beat It video. The Hispanic gentleman from New York Undercover.
Yeah.
He was one of the dancers in the video.
I can't think of his name, but I see the face. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he was in the video. But yeah, Wesley Snipes was in the bad video.
He was in the bad video. I don't know why. I thought he was in the Thrill video. But
side note, the people don't mind me getting off topic. Did you notice? People just now pointing this out in the Beat It video when he was at that pool table had no openings on it. It was just flat.
It didn't. I found out way later on. Yeah, but when you're a kid, you don't see the little nuances like that.
No,
you're not paying attention. But yeah, later on, I saw the video. Yeah. As I got older, I was like, well, how do you play pool? And
these jokers was playing ping pong on that table. That wasn't no pool table.
So Mo Millie pointed out that Cheryl Song, the Asian lady with the long hair from Soul Train, was in that video too.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go on a tangent about other things I noticed in videos. So did you notice a couple things? We talked about the Thriller album. I'm gonna do two. So in the Thriller video, right? They moving. They left the video. They left the movie theater. They talking. Mike singing. It's close to midnight. He talking all around her. And then when he transformed into the zombie, why she stand there and watch?
She did.
She stood there and watched them do their dance. Yeah. She's like, damn, they jamming right now. Maybe I should run. That never came across her mind.
Never came across her mind at all. She
Holy Ray should have took them shoes off and got up out of there.
See, you know what it was? What it was, she was probably afraid she was going to slip on the Jerry Curl juice because the girl that was in the video for Thriller, she was actually a model for Johnson Products.
Correct.
Makers of Classy Curl.
Yes.
So maybe she was afraid she's going to slip, I just made that completely up in my mind.
And then in Beat It, when Michael Jackson and his Wesley Snipes is a bully in the video, Mike goes like, "You ain't bad, you ain't nothing." And then they start dancing. He transforms into the suit with all the buckles on it.
Yeah,
they start dancing, and I'm like, then they run off. I'm like, y'all, that scared y'all? Y'all street thugs in New York in the subway. And y'all let this scare them boys let this scare them right here.
Right.
They be doing Baryshnikov in the subway.
Okay, but we got to talk about, since we on this tangent of jackets, right? I remember when, I think that was the Thriller video. No, the Beat It video. Yeah. Michael had the jacket with all the zippers.
Yeah.
There were people back home that were pressed to get that jacket. They were going to the flea market to get the fake one. I remember I wanted the jacket from I think that was from Thriller.
Yeah, with the black stripes on it.
Yeah, I wanted the Thriller jacket so bad when I was a kid. Could never find it though.
Man. Yeah, that's some crazy stuff, man. All right, so we've gone over all our songs. We went off on a tangent. We appreciate y'all rocking with us tonight, man. Special edition of the Saturday Sit Down. And now, so typically we don't do 2 shows in a month, but because it was Quincy, we really felt like we had no choice. So we're coming back to y'all same time next Sunday for our regularly scheduled show. And Q, tell the people what we're going to talk about, man. This is going to be a good one.
Next Sunday, we are going to talk about gospel.
Yep.
We are going to talk about gospel music. We're going to talk about, we'll talk about the origins. We will talk about its impact on R&B. We will get into a few of the artists that made gospel what it is. Now, I'll be real. I'm not one that listens to gospel all the time, but, I do know a few songs and I do know a few artists. So most of my stuff is probably going to be old. But those are the songs that impacted me when I was young. And so, so we're going to talk all things. We're going to talk all things gospel. So get ready, because it's going to be a show for the ages.
Absolutely. So we're definitely going to talk gospel music, praise and worship. Q hit it. He hit it right, man. We're going to put things in the proper context before we hit on our favorite songs, man, because gospel music to its core is the foundation of Black music, period. Yep. Yeah. I mean, you could trace all the influences of R&B and soul and jazz and bebop and so forth and so on and blues back to the church. That's what we're going to hit on next week. And thank y'all again for, I also want to we're going to have a guest with us, a friend of mine, my friend of mine, and my wife, dear friend of ours, but also a huge supporter of the Saturday Sit Down. Minister Adrian Young is going to be with us next Sunday for our gospel show. So please tune in, put it in your calendars, be looking out for the promos, the flyer, and the reel that come along with that this week. So we look forward to seeing y'all a week from today here on YouTube Live, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're calling this the Sit Down on Sunday, where we're going to talk about gospel music. All right.
Make sure you are there.
Yeah, make sure you're there. So I want to give a shout out to Brother JB for this, for saying, God bless the legacy of Mr. Quincy Jones. We can't end without talking about the legacy of Q, man. What do you think when we're having this someone 10 years down the road? What are people going to say and remember about Quincy Jones?
I think they're just going to remember his whole musical legacy, his whole musical journey. I mean, there's not going to be too many bad things they can say about the man. I mean, he had an impact on the world of music. You know, they will still hold him in high regard as a top shelf, top tier producer. You know, the ones that influence some of the sounds that you hear today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like this is one of those gentlemen whose music is going to impact generations to come.
Oh yes. Oh
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, like I said, my youngest son is 6 and he knows George Benson, Give Me the Night. He knows who Michael Jackson is. He knows these songs, and that impact and that legacy is not going to stop.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Because
definitely.
no
Like I
longer
said, you could take Quincy's music and put it in a time capsule, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, and people are going to be jamming when they hear it. Now, I don't know how they're going to listen to it. They'll, you know, I'm sure in some form, fashion, everything's coming back. So who knows? You know, CDs might be back in fashion by then. But yeah, you can put his music in a time capsule and people will still get down to it. So
absolutely. And you know, I'll say this will be my last thing about Quincy. We talk about great American composers. Like when we talk about great American composers, we talk about the Bernsteins, the Burt Bacharachs, the Henry Mancinis of the world. But Quincy Jones belongs in that same conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Quincy Jones belongs in that same conversation with those that are considered great American composers. In fact, I would put him on the Mount Rushmore of great American composers, regardless of genre, regardless of skin tone. He belongs up there.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. So
yeah. So again, Q, thank you, brother, for your flexibility. You always support my crazy ideas when I say, hey, we got to do a show on this.
No, I was thinking the same thing. Like, hey, we can't just let this moment pass us by.
Yeah.
So you basically just took the idea I had in my head and decided to make it happen. So
I appreciate you for doing that, and I appreciate y'all for joining us this evening. Again, like I said, it was last minute. Typically, we like to put our stuff out a couple weeks in advance, but I put the information out there on a Monday, and y'all responded, man. So again, as always, we say this all the time. Thank you for y'all. Thank you for your thank you for being here. Thank you for your support, because without you, there'd be no us.
That's
and
right.
This is why we continue to come back month after month to talk good music with y'all. So, all right. So again, I am T. Harris at When the Needle Drops.
And I'm QG at the Nerdy Little Bubba.
All right. And again, we thank you guys for joining us this evening. And we will see y'all a week from today as we discuss gospel music on the Sit Down on Sunday. Y'all have a good evening. Peace out.
Y'all have a good one. Peace out.